to kick us off and give us a welcome to this gorgeous part of the world. We're lucky to have a Metropolitan Land Council and our Bidgigulla.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Barton Madden, Yettica-Paulson. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, there's an old saying out there, walk a mile in my shoes. The panel that you see up here today, if their shoes could talk, they would tell you a lot of stories. And it's an honour and a pleasure to be here with that story. But first of all, I'd like to acknowledge our Aboriginal elders, past and present, and pay my respects. And to all our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers and sisters, from whatever Aboriginal or other nation you may have come from, welcome to Gadigal. And to all our non-Indigenous brothers and sisters here today, a very warm and sincere welcome to you to Gadigal. No matter where you've come from, whether it be across the seas, across the state or across town, once again a very warm and sincere welcome to you to Gadigal. As I've mentioned many times before, was, is and always will be Aboriginal land. Only 3 things shorter than that: coming, taxation and going. It is an honour and a pleasure to be here today to welcome one and all to Gadigal. Gadigal is one of 29 clans of the Eora Nation. The Eora Nation is bounded by nature's own. The Hawkesbury River to the north, the Pen to the west, and George's River to the south. And in between those 3 mighty rivers is the Eora Nation. And in that nation there are 29 clans. And the clan's name we're on today is Gadigal. On behalf of members of the Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council and of the Gadigal mob, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Will. I'd like to pay my own respects to those elders past and present. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land, this land in which we go. Now we are very fortunate today to have the Bidgigulla Dance crew who are going to hopefully get us in the right mood to start thinking about culture, thinking about respect for each other, respectful dialogue here today. Could I ask you please to give a very warm welcome to the Bidgigulla Dancers.
Of course, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of Aboriginal people and also the
Bidgigulla Dancers. Thanks so much, guys. The only problem with having Bidgigulla come and dance is it's all downhill from here. Thanks, mate. We're really lucky today to have four speakers who are going to thresh out between them in a respectful, I'm pretty sure, robust, I know the four characters behind me, a robust play, issues about constitutional recognition, sovereignty, treaty. How do they all fit together? Do they fit together? So, in no particular order, I'd just like to welcome all four of them. We have Yettica-Paulson, one representing Mick, who's also coming from Recognise. Hiding behind me in a discreet yellow top is Monro. And bring all these on my far left, Ken Caning. So the speakers are all going to contribute different issues, open up, hopefully our minds, about some of those complex issues, and then after that, all four of them have volunteered their time to stay here and answer whatever you throw at them. So could I ask you first of all, Yettica-Paulson is one of the representatives from Recognise. He's been travelling around the country speaking about constitutional recognition. He brings a lot of learning, a lot of value, and I think we're really lucky to have Mark speaking and kicking off the debate. Mark.
The big debate really is, do we stand up or sit down and talk? That's the real thing. So Mick and I decided I'd stand up and he'd sit down. Thanks, Uncle, for the welcome to country. It's always a pleasure to be on Gadigal country. I'm from Brisbane, and my family's from, my mum's from Shoebridge, my dad's from Twig Heads, so he just fits in the New South Wales. So I've got a lot of family in Foster and Taree. So that's where I fit in, but I've lived and worked in Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, all around. So it's great to come back to Sydney. On the plane this morning, I was in an exit row. And when you're somebody who's my kind of frame, the exit row was great news. And then I got moved to the exit row across, which means I had a spare seat next to me. So that was the best thing ever. So I thought, great, nice, calm, relaxed trip to Sydney. And then the lady next to me, she starts asking, so what do you do? And I was like, okay, here you go. So then we had this big conversation, ended up having a conversation about constitutional recognition, about Indigenous affairs, etc., etc., in the exit row that I was supposed to be enjoying the freedom of extra movement, extra legroom. The thing for me that really stood out in my conversation with her was we both agreed on the importance of having a moment to have the country reflect on how prejudiced we can be, how quickly we can judge others, how quickly we can look at what they wear, what colour skin, what culture, what footy team, what state, what kind of hairstyle, and we can judge. So she and I were in tremendous agreement about that. About we need an opportunity for this to always be the reality here in Australia, that we stop and think about how quickly we judge others. We're talking about prejudice, which then ends up manifesting itself in all kinds of isms, including racism. But it's that thing of, I can see somebody different, somebody not like me, or I can see somebody wearing stuff that's not like me. I don't think they're good. I don't trust them, I don't like them. I'm going to talk about how bad I think they are. So this lady was having this conversation, talking about that sort of stuff. Where she and I did not agree was her position on whether trade unions should exist or not. And she doesn't think that they should. She said the time for trade unions is over. And I was like, well, I'm just going to order another cup of tea, So I was like, I don't think this is... But we had this exchange about stuff that she thought was important to me, stuff that I am, it's important to me about judging. But then she went on to talk about trade unions and how, from her opinion, they don't need to exist anymore. And I know there's some people in the room who fundamentally believe in their existence and will campaign to them. So the point about that is, on some of the things she was with me, on some of the things she wasn't. But when she left the plane, she said, I hope that you can get something that will be great for all of us as Australians. The reason why we're doing this campaign is for all of us as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians and everyone else here. For us to come to a point where we can acknowledge in the highest document the very fact that we all know to be true. This was, is and always will be Aboriginal land. You heard that from Uncle. It's the reality of acknowledging, recognising that our peoples were here first. We are here. And we are a cornerstone to the identity of this country. So that's really important, and that's one of the reasons why the Recognise campaign is travelling around the country to raise awareness and support for the idea that that would be put into the Australian Constitution, where we have the complete absence of us being mentioned, and our history and our culture, all of that's not there at all. For that to be inserted into the body of the document and to be acknowledged and recognised. That's why we're doing what we're doing. The second key component of the Recognise campaign is to remove the racial discrimination that is embedded in the document. Racial discrimination that made sense to the drafters and to the people who voted back in the 1890s and in 1900, when the turn of the century back then. It made sense for them to think about how to be racist and prejudiced, how to judge people of dark skin, and how to say that we want the power in Australia, we want the power to say those dark-skinned people, we don't want them to vote in a state election. So they wrote section 25 of the Australian Constitution, and it has stayed there until today. It is still there. They also wrote the special powers in section 51(26), a special power that the Commonwealth would have the ability, the power to make special laws for any race in Australia, because we need to make sure that we can control those people, those others. That made sense to them. And so what we're seeking to do is to remove the racial discrimination by having section 25 removed and having section 51(26) fixed, so that you don't have this power anymore that could be used against a race, against a people group, against a minority group here in Australia, but you would have a power that could be used for the benefit. Or maybe there's no power there at all. Or maybe there's other arrangements that's fitted in there. But the point is, it's fixed. Now, part of our challenge about where we're up to in this whole campaign, the campaign's been running for 3 years now. We began a journey to recognition in 2003, and we've travelled over 30,000 kilometres around the country. Had over 300 events where we've had face-to-face conversations with Australians in all the states and territories. We're snaking our way through New South Wales at the moment. Now, this face-to-face conversations means that we're having conversations like this, where people say, what about sovereignty? What about treaty? What about Indigenous affairs? What about anything else going on? What about those who support you? And what about those who are really against you? And we have these conversations face-to-face. So it's fantastic that we're here today, again, to share the platform with Ken and Jenny, and this fellow here, who's one of the fellows I've been looking up to for a while in terms of, I won't say it, but it's his work that he does in Indigenous affairs. I can't say in Indigenous affairs, but that's what he does, provide some of that stuff. But in any case, what we're doing, what we're talking about is the opportunity for us as community to get more aware of this. And so Recognise is really happy to be here, to be able to talk more about, okay, so this is where we sit, this is our job, this is our role, and this is where the process is up to. And we can have community be able to say, well, I've got some strong questions about this, I've got some critical questions about this. Actually, I'd just like to know how I can sign up to support. We get a whole range of that stuff as we travel around the country. One of the significant things that happened in terms of this campaign very recently was the change of Prime Ministership. Now, for all of us, when the Prime Minister changed, that had various effects on us. Some people jumped for joy, some people couldn't care less, some people were like, okay, this is really serious. But as far as recognised is concerned, it was like, okay, so now what is the direction from the Prime Minister? That office, that position, whoever is in that seat. So whether you like or dislike Tony or Malcolm, it kind of doesn't matter. The Prime Minister's role, the Prime Minister's job is to provide direction on this. And so we're waiting and looking for the opportunity for Prime Minister Turnbull to set out the next phase of the constitutional conversation. Meanwhile, we're having face-to-face dialogue with Australians all around the country. So the next formal part of the process, as was agreed with a meeting of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leadership in the 6th of July this year, the next phase of the process are national conventions or conferences or conversations, national forums where people will be discussing what words work. What are the collection of words that we can put to the Australian public? They need to be strong enough, they need to be general enough, they need to be wise, they need to be clear. These words need to be up there so that we as Australians can go, yeah, that does it. That acknowledges our First Peoples and that also removes the racism of those conventions. If you want to have a say about what the words look like, get yourself into that process. The work of Recognise is to not run that. We don't run that. Our work is to have face-to-face conversations with Australians all around the country to raise awareness and support for the idea that change should happen. So that's our work, that's our role. And we've got clarity that we're going to exist for the length of the convention process, but who knows what happens after that. But we've got a job to do, and that job is to engage the community and have conversations with people like yourselves. So again, Mick is going to talk quite targeted directly about the questions of sovereignty and treaty and recognition. I've tried to give you a bit of an overview of where the process is up to, and I look forward to hearing your questions later. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Our next speaker is Ken Caning. I've always thought of Ken as a poet, but he's a poet and an activist. And I think probably Ken's going to try and explore that sort of initial binary question. Do we want to go forward with constitutional recognition? Do we want to take a different path? Ken will tell you in his own words. Please welcome Ken.
I'd like to say that acknowledging your people of the Gadigal Nation and all those Australians that went before us and that are still with us and the others that will grow in the future. As you hear from my voice, people say I talk too much. This is living proof. I do talk too much, I'm losing it. Thanks for the guests coming along. It's a very interesting debate, this one. It's a very, very interesting debate. In the Glebe debate, I questioned things about funding going into one side of the argument, not the other side. Now, as Mark said, he's been travelling all around with Recognition Australia to get information out there. And although Recognise is not participating in what is said in the world, it's still are facilitating that. Our group had sent a message to the Prime Minister at one stage. Can we have equal funding to take our debate around the country? This is not happening. That's a concern I have. There's been a lot of money, and I do admit to last time I exaggerated the amount. I said billions and billions. That's not quite that. Probably only 999. No. But the simple fact of the matter is there is money for Recognition Australia. There is not money for the voice that is not for Recognition Australia. You only have to look at the football fields of every sporting grounds in the country and you have to pick R all over the place. This is a subliminal message. If anybody's know about advertising, it works. That's how advertisers sell a product. People just go and buy things off a shelf without knowing why, because it's inundated all before them. Where is the voice against it? There's too many grey areas in this whole debate today. We're talking about Section 51. Section 51's already been proposed. I don't know exactly word for word, but they've already come up that there may be a change in 51 to read something like the Australian Parliament will have the last say in making decisions for the betterment of Aboriginal people. That's something that's been tossed around lately. Now, I have a mental health problem. Do they say for the betterment of me, I've got to go back to hospital? When people start saying they make decisions on the betterment for the betterment of a group of people, it sounds very much like the Aboriginal Protection Board to me. So that's a very loose thing. I'd be very wary of that. I'd be very wary of that. I'd also be very wary of any, I don't care whether it's recognition, I don't care whether it's any other political movement that is being sponsored by Transfield Australia. I would be very wary of any movement that is being sponsored by major banks who have mining interests in Australia. I'd be very wary of the multinationals such as Telstra who are supporting recognition. They are not, these are, particularly Transfield, these are not humanitarian people we're dealing with. They're not after the interests of anybody, they're after the interests of filling their pockets. They know something we don't know. We are just the average citizen in the street, and so are our gentlemen here, the average citizen in the street. They do not have, you're not privy to conversations between Transfield and certain ministers. And we all know what happens. Corporate Australia talks to ministers of the Crown. Can anybody disagree with that fact? No. It's been going on since 1788. What are they talking about? Is Transfield saying, let's do the right thing by Aboriginal people? No. They know something. My prediction is they know sovereign rights will be extinguished once we're in that constitution and they can let loose on the land without immunity, without any body pulling them up on it. Why else would all these bodies be having anything to do with it? Now, I've already stated that there has been something that was publicised in different news outlets about possible changes to 51. The wording may or may not be right, may or may not happen. But they've got to a certain point. And the point I made in the last debate, 1928, constitutional recognition was first brought up, and still we haven't got 1 sentence. We've got to the point constitutional recognition is. We haven't got anything else. What are we voting on? Come on, can somebody here please tell me what we're voting on? We're voting on a thing called constitutional recognition. We don't know what it is. It might say constitutional recognition says we're going to deport the lobbyists to another country. That's absurd, we know that. I know that. But unless somebody can spell out to me what I'm voting for, I don't want to vote for it. The moral issue too, if we're looking at statistics like you're 54 times more likely to be arrested in Western Australia if you're black than if you're white. Our deaths in custody rate has, in recent times, overtaken that of African Americans. The $500 million cut the LNP put on our funding shut down suicide prevention rates where kids are now killing themselves. They shut down domestic violence places where domestic violence is on the rise and the perpetrators had spaces where, well, the recipients of it had somewhere where they could go and be safe. The perpetrators had somewhere where they could go and be taught not to be like that, or even people who would condone domestic violence had places. They're shut down. They're all shut down. The difference we're seeing here is that went through like that. Nobody. Every other thing to do with that budget that the LNP is now trying to sell as a new softer version, everything was fought for by different parties and said we can't do this, we can't do that. The $500 million went through like that. That has caused not a national disgrace, an international disgrace. I think what we're seeing now in this country, the apartheid we're seeing with the intervention, the apartheid we're seeing all over the country by removing Aboriginal peoples off the land is a far more urgent debate we need to be having than being put into a document that I don't believe in. reclaiming the word. After 227 years of oppression, after 227 years, and I'll say it straight, of a murderous regime that hasn't got any better, I do not trust this government to put something in that constitution that will be benefit to me or my people. I do not trust them one little bit. And I don't think anybody in the same mind can have a look at what has happened to our people in this country and trust them. We've got to get back to the fact. Now, they have done nothing to date but make things worse. When I started campaigning all those years ago, things have got worse. They're getting worse. Mark just mentioned the new Prime Minister. I've kept an eye on now, Mr Turnbull. He's mentioned Aboriginal people once. I watch the news all the time. I get things taped, I get everything. I'm a bit mad at it. The only time I've heard him mention Aboriginal affairs, besides a little passing word, was he's going to reinvigorate the debate with the selected, Abbott selected Indigenous Advisory Council, which we all think is rubbish. Now, that's his major agenda today. Reinvigorate that debate and open up further debate with Barton Madden, who we all know speaks on behalf of a lot of us. So I think if that's his contribution to Aboriginal affairs today, I seriously don't think anything's going to happen. Actually, I'm of the firm belief they're not even going to have constitutional recognition. Yeah. This is merely a ploy to take white Australia away from the fact of what is happening all over this country. It's a ploy. I don't think in 2017 they will have it ready. A referendum, whatever. I'll tell you, this will not happen. This will not happen because this is another political stunt. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. I always like Ken speaking because he's never quite sure what he thinks. Mick Gooda is the Australian Indigenous Social Justice Commissioner, and he's I think known to many of you in his work speaking for the rights of Aboriginal people. And I think we're very fortunate to have Mick here to come and throw his tuppence worth in to tell us about what Recognise is doing and from his view, because he's been close to some of he was on the working party that came up with models. He's been close to it for a while now. Could you all give your close attention to Mick Gooda?
Thanks, David. Can I acknowledge all the panel members? I think it's important to understand that I've been constantly amazed that when Aboriginal people disagree, it's something spectacular. Like tell me a community group in Australia that agrees on everything. So can I acknowledge all of our panel members? I acknowledge the traditional owners, Gadigal people, the Eora Nation, and I just flew down from Brisbane like Mark. We went on the same plane, but that's my country up in central Queensland. We're going to live people. Look, I started writing about constitutional recognition in my first social justice report in 2010, and it's not the first time it happened. In 1933, just up the road here, on the 1938 on the day of mourning, like Jack Patton and William Ferguson asked for recognition. So it's not new. It started, I think this iteration of it started back in 1999 when we had the Republican referendum. But it really ramped up in 2007 when that election John Howard lost, when he actually out of the blue proposed to have a referendum to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Constitution. Well, he lost that, but we've gone through a whole lot of things since then. I came into this job early 2010. I wrote about how the Constitution is marked by Aboriginal people being excluded. We're excluded from the conversation to develop the Constitution. We're excluded from the process to adopt it. And finally, we're excluded in the body of the Constitution. First, before 1967, we weren't counted as Australians. And then, of course, we had, like Mark and Ken have referred to, Section 51(26), where the Commonwealth was prohibited from making laws for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Now, that was fixed up in 2007, and having looked through having examined the Constitution and the words around it, it was really the reason I put that in is because the states just wanted to discriminate against us on their own. They wanted to be unfettered about the laws they made for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And being in Queensland and growing up in the Yettica-Paulson era, you certainly got a sense of what they wanted to do. We've had an expert panel that came up with a whole series of recommendations. I think I've never been on anything that Aboriginal people are involved with and haven't moved outside our mandate. You recall we got told we stepped outside the terms of reference all the time and came up with not only recognition but removing the race powers and actually putting a non-discrimination clause in. And we did that because Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people we talked to said, if you're going to do this, you need it to be substantial. You need it to be not just some words that recognise us. It needs to be substantial, and the point they made was, if we're going to make it substantial, let's do something about the bits of the Constitution that have been used against us. And like Mark said, Section 25, Section 51(26) have been used against us. You know, I had to go back and look in Queensland in 1933, they amended the Electoral Act because at that stage there was only Aborigines precluded from voting, but in 1933 they included Torres Strait Islander people and Aborigines who were under protectors of Queensland. So it's a history of exclusion for our people. I actually think, I think about the power of referendums. I often talk about the power of referendums, and Ken's exactly right. If people don't understand what they're voting for, they will vote no. When we looked at the 1999 Republican referendum, you can almost track a month out, 2 months out, people who were uncertain, almost to a person voted no. So people don't know what they're going to vote for. They will vote no. Now, where we are at this point in time is, I think we're on the process now to actually start thinking about the question. Now, when we were on the expert panel, we had 4 criteria to guide us in developing recommendations. The first was it had to contribute to a more unified and reconciled Australia. It had to accord with the wishes and be of benefit to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It had to be capable of being carried by the overwhelming majority of Australians and had to be technically and legally sound. So that's what guided us through our thing. And but where we are now is actually thinking about the question. And that was the meeting with the Prime Minister. Now, all major parties have said they will not proceed with this unless Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people agree. So there's got to be this great consultation. You heard about conventions and all that sort of stuff, so it's got to happen. But the questions are these. I reckon it's got down to what are the main questions? Recognition. Where does it go? In the body of the Constitution, in the preamble laws, the Cape York Institute recommends in an entirely different declaration. What do you do with the 2 race powers? 25 is pretty easy to sort out. Just get rid of it. It just doesn't operate like this today, what it was meant to do. 51(26) provides us with some real big challenges because the government actually uses that head of power to do some good legislation, things like heritage protection laws. And I know there's debates that are out there whether this is good or bad, but native title laws come under that sort of stuff. So there's some good stuff. How do you maintain those things if you maintain the validity of those things if you get rid of 51(26)? Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you a couple of things. Why we went to the non-discrimination clause is because it doesn't matter how you construct a new power, the High Court has said it can be, we all thought that 5126 can only be used for the benefit of people, can create beneficial legislation, but in 98, the Home Marshall case happened and went to the High Court, and the High Court said it's silent. So we can actually, probably the only country in the world that gives our government the power to make laws that can be detrimental to particular races. Basically make racist laws. And somehow we've got to fix that. There'll be the question of non-discrimination. You know, we got told in the panel that the night before our last sitting was that the coalition wouldn't wear a non-discrimination clause. But we had a long debate. Do we actually work on that, or do we actually be honest to the people who told us all they gave their time for us? We decided to be honest and put it in. And the last question, I think, that the 15 is actually the body, the advisory body recommended by the Paper Institute. Does all that fit? But for Aboriginal people, I think the question is this: do we want to be recognised? What does that look like? That's the fundamental question here that we've got to answer. If we don't want to be recognised, I say, well, there's no yes case at the moment. There's a case being put by Recognise to raise awareness of constitutional change. And to be fair, both parties have gone to the last election saying they're going to support constitutional change. But the chance for people to say no will come after we decide what the question is. And there'll certainly be a no campaign. It will be a funded campaign. All no campaigns are funded. They are. But the problem with that is there'll be one no campaign, and people who are against it will have to sit in rooms with people like Andrew Bolt and Gary Johns and work out what the no campaign's going to be. So I think what we need now is more discussion about what it means to us. I'm firmly in the camp of being recognised, you know, the constitutional recognition, but I know other people don't. But what does it mean for me? And I think I'm in Queensland at the moment, actually chairing a task force to repay the stolen wages. And one of the things we're doing, again, like the expert panel did, we're stepping outside our terms of reference. We're going to put a package to Queensland government, a part of which is, do we have a compact with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queensland? It's just to work out the place of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Queensland. I think that's the question we've got around this. What is the place of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia? And like Mark said and like Ken said, once we have a discussion about that, I think we'll be in a bit better position, a greater position to make an informed decision about whether we want to be recognised. And it's got to be Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people leading that discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Mick. Just in case people aren't aware of it, the Commonwealth Constitution at the moment, you hear people talking about 5126. So Section 51 of the Australian Constitution sets out the powers that the Commonwealth Parliament has, and 5126 is the power to make laws with regard to, and I'll read it, the people of any race for whom it is deemed necessary to make special laws. That sits there in our Constitution at the moment. Our next and final speaker before we get to Q&A is Jenny Monro. When I think about Jenny, I think about the proud history of Aboriginal activists and also Aboriginal leaders, including the likes of Jack Patton and Bill Morrison, who the better part of 90 years ago, when white Australia was having its big festival of 70th centenary, 150 years after the invasion, came out and stood in front of the New South Wales Parliament House and said they were going to expose the humbug of white Australia. And the humbug, to which it says it's a progressive and civilised nation that separately ignores Aboriginal people. Jenny comes from that history, Jenny comes from that culture. Would you please welcome Jenny Monro?
always a privilege to be on the land of the Gadigal people and to be blessed as a part of the inner city of Redfern community to have raised my children here, and now doing the same with the grannies. It's a question that's very vexing, I think, for a lot of our people, and the problem with this question about constitutional reform is what net benefit does it bring to our people, Aboriginal people. Given the history of this country, 227 years of Aboriginal people's voices being ignored, most definitely our rights being ignored to the country, to law, land, religion, the right to rear our children, the right to practice this culture that is so precious to us, all being forcibly taken away by agents of government and government in this country. Let's not forget what happened here 227 years ago. We were invaded. It was an illegal occupation. It still is an illegal occupation today, regardless of what this we pretend they have legitimacy here, tell you. They are not legitimate, they never have been. The real owners, authoritarians, people who have the right to governance in this country, the people who are constantly ignored in the dialogue and the debate about what happens here, Aboriginal people. What's this all about? What is this constitution going to do? Is it going to recognise truth? Is it going to conveniently pan on more racism of the great majority as a means of control and oppression of Aboriginal people? That's a question we as Aboriginal people have to ask. We've never seen legislation enacted by government that has actually benefited our people. We've never seen policy programs enacted by government that actually saved our children. The problem with this system is that they are the perpetrators of the evil that's befallen our people. And today they are still perpetrators of that evil. So how do you trust your children in the hands of people with that kind of evil and that kind of agenda on their mind all the time? Little did we know as Aboriginal people when they came out in 1788 that the penal colony was for us. And if you doubt that statement, go to any country court in any country town on any day of any week in this country and you will see the number of Aboriginal people that are being processed by those courts on a daily basis. We're still the convicts. We didn't get any ticket of leave to go on farmland that wasn't ours, to set up fences so that we couldn't hunt anymore, so our animals could not roam freely on land that we had maintained for them for thousands of years, for time immemorial, for as long as there has been human existence on this planet, we have been here. The arrogance of those people that came here 227 years ago that said they had the right to govern and control us is unsurpassable, insurmountable. How do the youngest race of people on the planet, and believe me, Caucasians are, because that's why the figure 40,000 years rings out. That's when Caucasians broke off from the black races and became who or what they are. Got nothing to do with how long tenure, because we go back a long time before 40,000 years. But the oldest people on the planet were treated like children by this government. Every day there are sites from one end of this country to the other, destroyed, older than the oldest examples of so-called civilization anywhere else in the world. This government and this system destroys it. Willy-nilly, they don't care about it. Teachers of astronomy, teachers of science, teachers of language, teachers of dance, all the culture that the world has comes from us. And yet we're still treated like children by a government. The only real agenda is to still kill us, to wipe us off the face of the earth, to commit genocide. That's why there's still not a law in this country against genocide. because they still legally want to commit it. That's why the Hindmarsh Island case was such a downfall for Aboriginal people when the High Court actually said, hey, it's fine. They can pass laws that are detrimental to black people. They can pass laws that will kill Aboriginal people because they have the right under this illegitimate system that they've concocted. What's this constitutional reform about? Is it about recognising the truth? No, it's not. It's about maintaining the fallacy, maintaining the lie, maintaining that illegitimacy. It's not about listening to our people's voice, because all through these debates it's a small minority of Aboriginal people who are having conversations with government, and that seems to be magically transformed into a majority of us. It's not. It never has been a majority of black people who give credence to these programs. These tactics are as old as, well, they're not as old as time, we're as old as time, and we didn't use those tactics before white people came in, but it's part of the learned behaviour process. I think white people can trace it back to Roman times. It's called divide and conquer. Been used very effectively on our people. Tribes in New South Wales that were used by the police to hunt Aboriginal tribes, kill them, massacre children, committing outrages and atrocities and torture on our babies, other black people, coerced and forced by this government to kill our own. How can we trust people like that? Do we trust people like that? No, we don't. But we're never given a voice to air the concerns that we have. Look what the government's done right across this country today. They're not interested in a solution. They don't want a solution. They want to keep killing us. They want to take hope away from our children so that the youth suicides are in such high numbers that it's a crisis of world proportions. You know, I've lived all my life as a black radical. I wear this t-shirt with pride, not because I want to pay lip service, which is what this country does to the meaning and the message of the t-shirt. Aboriginal people never gave Cook, Matthews, Phillip, or whoever else came to our country uninvited permission to do so. And all of our nations right across this country can say the same thing. That's true. People right across our land stood and defended, died defending our land against people that had superior weapons, superior numbers, on horseback, with guns and swords. But our people still stood and defended them and died doing it. Because this land was worth that much and so much more to us. It's the cradle of our being, but it's also the cradle of yours. And it's something so precious that we all need to recognise what it is and work hard to protect it for future generations. Because these fellows ain't on about protection. They're not on about recognising what was here, what's still here, what can continue to be here. There's a system of law and governance here that's as old as time. Recognise that? Take away this redneck system. Take away this constitution from the first word to the last because it's based on control, power and greed. Let's see the Genas and the Twiggies get out and earn an honest crust. That's what they're doing, is actually stealing our resources. Stop the mining, stop the damage being done right around this country from the great natural wonder we have along our coast. You know, one of the wonders of the world, and we're going to let them mine it and dredge it and do all these things up there. You know, our country's got magic in it, on it, through it. And white people still don't even understand us and how we can teach you all that because they don't care enough to want to know. White people can still go out 10 miles away from their home, get lost, get bit by a snake, get dead very quick. We learn that from children, how to survive in this place. That's the knowledge that you need to learn and keep you safe here all the time. The magic of the place. The sights that are so significant that it will bring tears to your eyes. make your soul soar to see with your own eyes the truth of our culture and our religion and our belief system all based here. Our God by Army's footsteps is still here. And the white man just, oh, we could destroy, that would be a nice 20-story apartment town. And that'll make all the difference. No, it won't. You killed another corner of your own soul doing it. How dead does the white man's soul have to be? How evil do we have to realise they are before we recognise we have a right as basic human beings to determine our future for ourselves, by ourselves. Anyone else or anywhere for whatever reason. That's the basis of humanity, isn't it? So, I tell Bill, I would have told Abbott if he was still in it, you can take that constitution and show it where it deserves to be. Up your anus.
I'm going to work on that final analogy. Now's the time for question and answers. Now, the idea of question and answers is there are questions followed by answers. That's the basic idea. If you need a short preamble before you state your questions, that's perfectly good. But really, I say again, questions and answers, if we could. So, does anybody want to start off questions from the back? Up the back, please. We have a... Up the back one. Copy that.
I don't really need a David, but thanks very much for convening today. It's a great honour to have this discussion taking place. Firstly, I'm Nathan, a Mirabai Dungutty, Goori from the North Coast of this penal colony known as New South Wales. I'm also at a daily job as the CEO of the local land council for this very area, the Metro Land Council, who Uncle Alan opened up tonight. So I pay my respects and homage to the Gadigal Uncle Al represents, and particularly the Metro Land Council. So I think it's, sorry for the preamble on mine, but a bit longer than most, but to point out that this state has the greatest example of the pseudo-treaty in the colony. And I think it's the greatest sadness that there's replications and duplications such as what's occurring now instead of building on what land rights was in the 1970s. A movement that the crescendo of our rights from the 1938 Day of Mourning, which fought for the ultimate representation model, blackfellow government. So I'll go to this and say, who come up with a concept or conceived recognise, and why would that improve my human rights or my socio-economic status as a human being in my own land that I'm still not having access to some 5 generations for us Mirabai Dungutties later?
Nathan, can I just clarify the question? Are you talking about recognise or recognition?
Recognise. Constitutional recognition. Who conceived it? Who takes ownership for starting this discussion that is taking place?
Oh, I said at the beginning, I wouldn't take ownership of that, but I did write about it, like I said in my 2010 report. But back in 1938, that day of mourning, of course, people were asking for recognition as well. So it's been a long thing. You go and have a look at the Barton petition, you look at the Eva Valley's the Barunga statement and all those sort of things. They all sort of add to how we're recognised and treated in this country. So the recognition in Australia has been around for a long time. So, and like I said at the beginning, John Howard proposed a new iteration in 1999 at the Republican referendum, and then again in 2007 at the election campaign. So that's where the momentums came from. So I'm unashamedly a supporter of recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Constitution. So every day, if most at times I go and meet with people, I'll argue the case.
Ken, I suppose the number of the question is constitutional recognition going to take it? Is the Thursday after the Constitution changes going to change anything for Aboriginal Australia, or are there other models we should be exploring?
I think the models we should be exploring is self-government, self-determination, Aboriginal people governing Aboriginal people. I don't think we should have a non-Aboriginal government making decisions on our behalf. It has not worked, it will not work, it will never work. It's only until we get, for want of a better word, our own parliament separate from the white parliament, that we can start having the debate of how we see ourselves as peoples. Now, you've got to look at it in this context. We are the only country in the Western world that's never offered a treaty to Indigenous peoples. Why is that? Now, nothing in this Constitution they're going to put in. Do you think after all these years they're going to give up their greed? Do you think they're going to give up the killing ways? No, they're still doing it. For goodness sakes, let's get a little bit sensible about this whole
report, bringing them home. There's so many recommendations that are made by people that don't really know or understand the issues, basically because they're not Aboriginal people, and that's the problem. We're under a microscope. We're the most studied, the most taken pride of people on the planet, and yet people don't know us very well at all. Where does all that material go? They've studied us, the mitochondrial DNA to show that we're the oldest people on the planet. They still don't believe the racism that's inherent in all the systems that have been created. Still, we have a problem reconciling history with science. The problem here is reconciling all the propaganda that the government throws at our people, and reconciliation was one that too you can recognise. They have been funded, people have been employed for quite a number of years to push this propaganda machine forward, recognised now. And then the final conclusion is the question on the Constitution, what changes they will make to that document to improve the lot of Aboriginal people. Basically, I'm telling you that the only change that you can make to improve our life is to throw it out in its entirety, work at something that will give Aboriginal people recognition of our law and our custom, and that means recognising Aboriginal law from one end of the country to the other. Tuck out the bicameral system and have a tricameral one, 3 houses, black house, white house, Senate referee. And another thing we need to understand with our stuff, it's all controlled aggression. With the white system that came in, that was just uncontrolled aggression. When we give punishment out, that's somebody that's been speared through the legs, no one every time they move their leg that they're punished for something. The leg or the heel, but they will walk with them for the rest of their lives to remind them of the crime they committed. This system in this country lets pedophiles get away with a slap on the wrist. We've got something that was born here in 1788, that's learned behaviour. There's a lot of disgusting behaviour that was born here by the so-called civilisers who were the barbarians. Let's correct all that. Part of that correction is recognising that the law that the Constitution imbues and personifies is illegitimate. Throw it away. Let's start with the truth. Let's try and build some building blocks where we are treated all fairly, humanly and equally in one.
Very shortly, and then we're going to try and get answers short too, so we get questions and answers. But
Look, like I said before, I do lots of these things. I was confronted over in North Sydney once about this thing about a treaty, and I said, I think the remedies that were available in 1788 are no longer obvious. Because I don't know about any other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person in this room. I would have been pretty dirty with the local mob here had they signed my country away. So the question is, what sort of things do we go to get what Ken's saying? I'm with Ken and Jenny about we need to take control of our lives. We need to do this, but the treaty option is still available and it will still be available with recognition. And we've just seen WA where in any other country the Woollahra Agreement would be called a treaty. Like last week they just passed in Parliament an act of recognising Woollahra people as the traditional owners of that country down from Perth down Wago down. So I think we've got to start thinking a bit differently as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, because I think we work on decolonisation theory and we've never been decolonised. We probably won't be decolonised unless someone can come up with a repatriation plan for about 23 million people.
There'll be a couple of hours.
But so sovereignty for us means something different. And sovereignty, let me tell you, we work on the sovereignty. Go amongst Greek people now, how their sovereignty is really standing in light of what happened in Greece recently. Sovereignty is a really moving feast, and we've got to actually work out. But for me, sovereignty is actually taking control, and I think if we can achieve that, I'm not sure, Jenny, if we can get another House of Parliament for us, but if we can, good luck, I'm happy to go for that. But I think we've got to think about what it means to us as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to take control. And when we start answering that, I think we start to get to address the sovereignty and the treaty issue. So I just wanted to say that, David. I think I agree with everyone.
Well, I think exercising our law in a time-honoured fashion without the period that it was interrupted is probably our best way to exercise our sovereignty.
But we're going to go to another question. So the next question from the floor, yes, sir. There is a mic.
No.
Hello.
Excuse me. Yeah, my name's Laura Davis. I'm Black Duck from the Yuin Nation, which goes from the Hawkesbury River down to Lake Pride. Within that is 13 countries, of which my mother is Tarawa and my father is Walbunja. I'm saltwater people. Now, there's a little quote here that I'm going to read from New South Wales Governor Lachlan Macquarie's orders to the soldiers in 1816. All Aboriginals from Sydney onwards are to be made prisoners of war, and if they resist, they are to be shot and their bodies hung from trees in the most conspicuous places near where they fall, so as to strike terror. Into the hearts of the surviving natives. Now, we were the hardest hit, we were the first hit, and I'm standing here today. Last week, I was at a meeting down in Woollahra, and the fisheries are putting what do you call it? They're putting a plan of management on us, saltwater people. Now, if anything, anybody wants to be as a plan of management, it should be the governors, not us. We've been here since millions. Hey, I did not. You shake a tree and see how many monkeys fall out of it. I'm from Dolphin. Huh? Right? I'm saltwater people.
Well, I think the question is about Aboriginal treaty.
No, I was making a statement. I wasn't asking a question.
Next question.
Okay.
Let me just try and build it out. Here we go.
Thank you. My question relates to an article I read a couple of months ago in the Monthly by Noel Pearson, in which he described the Kirribilli meeting in early July that you guys mentioned earlier. It was quite a scathing article in which he was essentially lamenting the fact that policy and policy debate is now subservient to the perception of process. And I think what he was getting at by that is that it's yet another example of the white political class with a predetermined outcome, and then essentially what's happening is backtracking from that, and then you have the choreographed handshakes and the signed, agreements and the photo ops and all the media that go with that. My question, I guess, primarily is to Mark, is as the person who is travelling around Australia and having these conversations with Indigenous Australians, is Pearson's view overly cynical? And do you believe that the conversations you're having with your people, do you believe that when consensus or something close to consensus is reached and you deliver that to the political leaders in Canberra, do you believe that they will take your recommendations and they will listen to you and they will include that as a proposal?
Okay, thanks. For the first part of the question about the travelling around and hearing the viewpoints of Australians, overwhelmingly the sense I get is that Australians pragmatically and practically just want this dealt with. People are just like, so what's the problem here? We know that your people were here first. If our document doesn't say that, somebody should just write it in. And we know that race discrimination is not a good thing. This is Australians in general. So if we've got it in that document, we should get rid of it. Such is the simplicity of the proposition where people are just saying, yeah, we need to deal with it. Then comes the second part, the process. The process is absolutely important. So first of all, I wasn't in the meeting, so I can't say whether Noel was actually, correct in what he was asserting. But the idea that there's kind of a covert sort of agenda that's being, carefully manipulated through this, I personally find that difficult to believe. Partly because the hard work that gets done to get the very basic level of negotiation, the very basic level of acknowledgement, is hard work. And what our people want is a higher level of acknowledgement, a higher level of recognition. And so part of our challenge is how do we get something that Australians will say, that's what we should do. And so the process is absolutely important. I don't think it's a case where a predetermined outcome is set and all we're doing is just stage managing our way through the optics of it. When I'm sitting face to face with white Australians who say that they are for this and they don't understand why we're not there, and I'm face to face with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians who are also saying yes, I'm for this. And then I've got my auntie, she was like, oh, it's great to see you, Bob. You won't like what I had to say about the R campaign, The disagreement amongst blackfellas shouldn't be a spectacular thing that halts the nation. Our passion and desire to get us properly recognised by the white establishment, by the Australia that's been built here, that's a great thing to do. Our desire to get our systems of governance, our systems of representation, our internal systems where we can have our culture and our law regulated by our people is absolutely what we need to do as well. So in one sense, what I'm absolutely remarked by when I am out there amongst ordinary Australians in town halls and riverbanks and stuff, is the pragmatism. People say, we should just get this done. So I would put a strong emphasis on proper process and a transparency in that process, and a process that's void of the party political mechanisms, that we can genuinely get something that's above all of our party politics and actually for the people of Australia. That's what I think the process is seeking to achieve.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that. Just from my own personal experience, I wouldn't trust anything Noel had to say. He's got his own vested interests. I know we are diverse in our opinion, that's my opinion. I just don't rely on what I was going to say that we probably had a little lovers quarrel to tell me out on the day. But having said that, you have to look at something. We've been alluding to the fact that when constitutional recognition first came up, when it gained ground, but one thing that was sort of missed in recent times is in the last 7 years is when Abbott and the company and all them have been really going mental on it. This has become an obsession. Tony Abbott said, I want to make this my signature policy. This is around the same time when Aboriginal people are getting up saying much more strongly, we have never ceded our nations. We have never ceded our land. We are a sovereign people. We'll be saying that much more loudly, much more clearly. We have people who are taking on traditional names and saying, I live in a sovereign nation. We have people signing documents whenever we go to rallies saying, I come from the Bidgigulla people, we can't sign, we are a sovereign people. Right on side with that is a thing all of a sudden accelerated. That was stalled till it was dead. It's now accelerated alongside of our own people's activism. I think that's something we've got to have a serious look at. The other point, my last both panellists, is just a quick question. You're allowed to ask questions. I'm going to ask questions. 2 questions I want to ask. 1, what the hell is constitutional recognition? I don't understand it. I'm not stupid. I just don't understand it. The second thing is, why Marcus Madden, he is employed to travel around the country to talk about constitutional recognition. Why aren't people employed to travel around the country to talk about why they don't want constitutional recognition? Why is it one-sided? Why is the funding over there and none here? Please answer that, gentlemen. Thank you.
Can I just add a couple of questions, but just to add to that now, because you're saying to start right now.
Jens is going to speak quickly.
Just 2 seconds on his question, because otherwise I've got a few too, so just to add to that one rather than ask it twice. You say you've written on recognition, and we walk around going, you said we don't know what it is. That needs to be the discussion. Why has it been going for years and funded by shiploads if you don't even know what it is? What are we here for today? What are we talking about? What are we discussing? Whether we want it or not, you don't know what it is that we're saying we want. I've got other questions, that was just to add to that, so I don't ask twice.
All right. Well, maybe we'll go to Mark and Mick to address that. What are we talking about? What is the shape of constitutional recognition?
I argue that it's the place that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people occupy in this country in the document that founded Australia as a nation. Now, Australia as a nation is 115 years old. My people have been in Central Queensland, we're babies in Australia, we've been 20,000 years. So Australia's a country different. This is Australia as a nation. Now, I understand when people say we don't believe in the Australian nation, but some of us do. And therein lies the thing that we're allowed to disagree. But for me it is, see, I think you've got to understand the power of referendums. The power of referendum is when everyone in the country who's eligible to vote will be asked to answer yes or no in a polling booth on a proposal that we've got to come up with. Now, for me, I've heard people say that they don't trust politicians. This isn't trusting politicians, this is trusting the Australian population to say something here. So it's not the High Court judges who decided in 1992 that there were societies here before and those societies continue to exist. That's what the whole nature of the native title decision was. And it's not the federal politicians when they made an act of recognition back in 2013. This is the people of Australia deciding where Aboriginal people fit in this country. And I think it's about time to have it. So that's why I argue that the technicalities of it, we've got to work out. That's
it got done by the millions by signing a contract with a title on it and nothing in it. That's what I'm saying. What is it? What's it achieve? What's it embody? How can you vote on an idea that has no even ideas underneath it? That's just a title.
Just carrying on from what I said earlier, what does this mean to Aboriginal people? I think the question needs to be put to white Australia rather than us. It's like asking the child for permission for the parent to do something. You go the wrong way around, you go the wrong way around from day one. Let's acknowledge and recognise our wisdom and law. By doing that, you don't bring people like an old piece of me down to Sydney and say, here the boss, here the messiah, you're going to tell us everything that's wrong and you're going to fix it. No. You know, there are only particular types of people that make messiahs and they usually end up on crosses. So look out now. The system is our people, the elders of this country, say what happens here. The Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council were in attendance at Kirribilli in July and they were roundly insulted by the white legal system, the white government system, because they were ignored on that occasion. We had the yes whiters, the yes black collars, the arse stickers, the people who like shit on their tongue, all up their top, and Tony Abbott. And they have black people that don't have a mandate with anybody other than themselves, and they don't speak for anybody other than themselves either. For example, I represent come from all of the Wiradjuri people, from one end of the Wiradjuri country to the other, not just my family, of which I'm the matriarch, the elder female of my family now. So let's recognise our system, let's put it in place as the law of this land, and let's forget the illegitimate, evil, cruel system that came in that has been hell-bent on killing us for 227 years. If we leave it, we'll still be hell-bent on killing us tomorrow. Let's have a reckoning. If we're going to talk about constitutional reform and including us in the Constitution, let's talk about financial reparations for what has been committed, the crimes that have been committed. And then we'll start talking about rental arrears.
Which brings us straight to Mark. Now, I think the question is, what's the shape of the constitutional model that's being discussed? I mean, what are the nuts and bolts of it?
Okay, so the nuts and bolts of it, there's actually a couple of models that are sitting with the final report from the Joint Parliamentary Select Committee. I don't want to talk too much about those things at the moment. First of all, we have to understand the role of the Constitution, the Australian Constitution. In a conversation with my dad, he and I talked about this, and he reckons, well, we both reckon, because I took the idea from him then, that the Australian Constitution is probably the closest thing whitefellas have to proper law. See, our law have got law systems that govern the way that we build all our law and kinship and land and all that sort of stuff. It's built off the bedrock of law. Our tribal law, our ways of being. For whitefellas, the Australian Constitution represents probably the closest thing that they've got to that. It is their highest law. It governs their governments. It means that their government can go here, can do this, it has the power and authority to do whatever. And at the moment, because they have got nothing in there about us, there's no relationship with that deep law. Like our law has got no relationship to their deep law. So, who legitimises ours other than us? But this is the debate. This is why the debate should. Yeah, sure. So the debate is here because we're like, why are we bothering to do something on that Australian Constitution? Because the Australian Constitution governs their system. And their system needs to be reckoned with the fact that we're here. And their system needs the removal of racial discrimination because it's better for them and then ultimately it's better for us. What tangible thing does it give to us on the Wednesday or Thursday afterwards? You know, what benefits does it give us directly? You know, we don't know for certain. That would be my honest answer. We don't know for certain. Taiwanese Aboriginal mob came and visited us at the recognised office and said that it's worth doing because they had now live on the other side of constitutional recognition in their country. And they said it's better for them over there.
You're getting paid a lot of money to go out and see them people, so don't be demanding they come to you.
We have a question at the front. Are you finished? You finished?
Sure.
No, I'm not trying to cut you off.
No, the challenge is part of the reason why the constitutional conversation is difficult, is that most Australians have nothing to do with it. It's buried so far away from them and they don't know how to engage with it. The reality is, if their system relies on, like our system relies on law. And that's why this is worth doing, because it will change their system, it will change a recognition within their document, and it will change a recognition within the way that their governments have to operate. That's why it's worth doing.
Just on that, this is a bit of a late question, brother, but just on that, just what I did there, that's all. That is all. How do you think they get taught that these days? They're getting simulated, they're not getting taught the simulation. You know, they're getting told it's okay to be white and act like that and not know who you are. So then I'm coming back home and later. Our law's being forgotten, our law's not being kept, which is number one important thing that we need to be getting back. Because that's all these issues like climate change and that shit going around. That's how our law's going to fix it. Okay? I want to say something on what you said before about you don't believe that there are people who are running around like that you're putting more effort into people campaigning yes vote. I went to a program in Congress a few weeks ago. It was held at NCIE. It was started up by progressive groups, all these social justice organisations. Not one black fella invited. I had to go and ask them to bring me and my brother boyfriend from Brisbane down to bring us there to this cultural awareness training. I won't teach cultural awareness training because I can't teach that. No one can teach cultural awareness training. I had to beg them to bring it up. Who was there? A campaigner for the Recognised campaign. A young 25-year-old white guy who lives in fucking Redfern, sitting there talking to me and making campaigns. And there's not even one black fella invited to this thing. You know how they got invited? Gets up voted because they've got a person, one black fella on the board from the Congress giving them the information that that's okay. How the hell can they invite a Recognised campaign without inviting the black fellas there in the first place? That's problem number one. Two, this is my question for you too, because these guys give me the confidence, because I know that I'm fine with them as my leader. When are we going to start actually putting people that deserve to be in that expert panel into that expert panel? Because Yango people ain't told anything to be out there. Yango people ain't told no peace to be out there. If Joyce and Clay found out about that, she'd go off her head. Lucky for you, Mom, she's got dementia. You know what I mean? My question is, I've been through sexual abuse. People I gave a speech in front of you last year about this, remember? You're going to start down in carriage words yet? My question is, the shit that I've been through in my life, sexual abuse, fucking rape, domestic violence, through my dad, through my ex-boyfriend, when the fuck am I going to feel safe as a young woman in this country? And I tell you, what you two are proposing is not going to work, because it's never been done before. 227 years my nan fought her whole life to make sure I didn't have to. I'm 25 years old, I'm too scared to have children. Okay? Too fucking scared to have children. Because of this shit. We got to really sort this out, because to me, I think it's bullshit we don't agree on this. How the hell do we not agree that this is bullshit? Alright? So my question is, when am I going to feel safe? How the hell is this going to make me feel safe?
Can I just do a quick, thank you. That's one of those quick responses. You really, seriously, you put your foot in the bed. You said, this debate is in the hands of the Australian people. The government is funding this debate. It is in their hands. It's not in the hands of the Australian people. Every time you look at the AFL, every time you look at the NRL, you get the big argument at you. The money is going to you guys. If the debate was in the hands of the Australian people, there would be a division. And there'd be an equity of funds for us to travel the country. But no, that's not the case. The other point, Mark, is you're talking about a constitution of law. That is a white man's law. I'm not remotely interested in it. I'm not even remotely interested in being in it. I want, as Auntie Jenny said, I want our law back. The only way we can have that is self-determination. Not through this idiotic thing. Now, here's the thing, I want to appeal to the non-Aboriginal people in this audience, because seriously, when it comes to the vote, 97% of the people voting will be non-Aboriginal people. This is who we've got to get through to. We get under 3% of the vote. So I'm going to stress to you this about the government that is running this campaign. They're on the United Nations watch list for 4 things. The daily human rights abuses of Aboriginal peoples, the torture of people at Nauru, the torture or their abuse of people with disabilities, and their neglect of the environment. There are 4 major things, and this government runs with this day in and day out and day in and day out. And as I've stated time and time again, do we trust people with that track record? No way in the world. So when it comes up, you non-Aboriginal fellas, vote no, because they're telling you lies.
Yes. Well, I think then goes to people are saying, is there any voice within Recognise that's testing this issue? Is there an internal debate? And to those that more complicated for and against argument, is it part of what Recognise is saying when they're going out and talking about constitutional recognition? The for and against, the voices, when you go to Aboriginal communities, you do hear voices against constitutional recognition. Are you reflecting those voices, or how do you reflect those voices when you're talking about Aboriginal recognition and going about the business of Recognise? Because you know they're there. How do you reflect them?
Yes. So we do get the voices that say, no, we don't want this. We prefer sovereignty. We prefer a treaty process. This is irrelevant because of the other stuff that's happening in the communities. So we hear all of that, and we have to take that on board in terms of that's the sentiment that's being expressed by the people there at that time. But we also hear voices that say this is good and we want it. And that's the part that, again, I refer back to what I talked about, the speed at which we can judge others. The reality is that there are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are out there saying, this is good and we do want this. This will be good for us to be recognised. So the reality is we have that range of that happening on a day-to-day basis. It impacts the work that we do, it impacts the social media, it impacts the way in which we engage with the community. That's the reality, that we have people who are saying, we're for this, we have people who are saying we're absolutely against this. We also have people saying, I don't even know what this is about. So that's the reality of us working and to try and raise awareness about this process. Now are there people who are out there expressing to us very clearly a difference of opinion? Absolutely. Is that impacting our work? Is it impacting the way that we do our work? Absolutely. Cool. We're not closing our ears to the voices that say, no, we don't want this. We're open, respectful, engaging. That's what we have to do.
With your open and respectful engagement of those other alternative voices, I don't see any of that reflected in the statistics from Recognise. It's all about this feel-good stuff, oh yeah, we're all going to be feeling real good at the end of the day. When we legitimise, once again, an illegitimate government, which is what we're doing through this process. At the end of the day, how do you answer and respond to people like Maz's question? How is this going to make her, a young Aboriginal woman, living in the largest developed environment in the country, feel safe about what's going on? There's nothing in that system that's going to make her system, because it's not designed to make her feel safe. There's nothing that they will put in or take out or do with that constitution that will make her feel safe. That's within and a part and a product of our law and our system. And because it's not respected universally as it should be from one end of this country to the other, all girls and women are vulnerable in this environment. And it's part of the crime of the patriarchy, part of what was imported here without permission, without authority in 1788, and it's part of the problem with the world, the patriarchy. deal with that. Men do not govern wives, and the older they get less wise the older governments. They get confused about which head to use to think, and that's the truth of it too. So, I think it's time for women to take control, and I think giving safety to young girls like that is not part of the system. Chuck the system out and make sure that we do embrace and create a system that makes young women safe, regardless of their age and where they are in this country. We've seen abuse. We've seen it with the Royal Commission into abuse in institutions. How many times do we let these monsters go before we realise that is not a solution to the problem? That's just an invitation given for them to abuse and torture someone else. There's a lot of things wrong with this system in this country. That's just one example of how law and governance does not work. There are many others. Our system is based on consensus. The people of this community will decide what the law is, not the people from North Queensland, what's best for the people here. And that is the system of truth that should be the law of the whole country built on, not a law that comes from somewhere else and uses force as such an effective weapon against people.
Jim, we're going to quickly for Mick, and then the lady there in the red spot comes to you.
I just wanted to respond to this young lady. Look, I can't sit up here and say this is going to. I say everywhere I go, I want to be completely honest about this. I cannot point to one person not going to go to jail. I can't point to another house. But what this does, and that's why I go back to what I said about the power of referendums when everyone in the country gets to vote, is it changes the attitude to us. I think there's this voice, and I talk about voodoo psychology in my mind about the way everyone knows that there were people here before. They know it. It's a fact. It's how they deal with that fact that's a problem. And the way they deal with it, I think, is they either dehumanise us, or just degrade us. They're not really human. They didn't even have a system of governance. They couldn't even elect a leader when they come here, because that's what the white fellows did when they went around the world. They went to Africa and they dealt with the chiefs. They went to India and dealt with the Rajas. And they said, because we have this system of governance that we will talk about, which is actually the most complex system of governance in the world.
It's based on so much law.
Because it's there. There's a practical reality. I've got to deal with the here and now, and it's,
You're insinuating to think about the way it's not fixed.
But you can say that if you like, but what do you say to the big majority of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people out there say they want it? Are you denying them?
We will come back to this. It's a good discussion. There's a decent feed in about 15 minutes, so that's a good point. At the back there.
Yo, nanti waktu nanti first, I just want to say I'm exempt from the Constitution because of who I am. I won't use the word exclusion. First, I want to say, I want to give respect to everybody who's ever stood on this land and fought and spoke for it. Today, yesterday, tomorrow. Now, it's been a very interesting yarn today. I've really enjoyed, waiting and holding up to the question, just listening to everything. Until there is, funding, or the Electoral Commission is funding the other side, the no argument, then recognise the scene clearly as propaganda. And the Australian people have to have a look at this. Now, how can I say it? Oh, well, the question, okay, I'll come back to the question. Now, to the qualified man, I presume, is a politician sitting there. Now, firstly, I do not give consent to you or anybody here, or on this land, or on these waters, to govern over me. Though, I pose this question to you, because you require consent to govern people. Now, knowing full well that this corporate enterprise called Australia, this colony, this penal colony called Australia, New South Wales.
That it's yet another example of the white political class with a predetermined outcome, and then essentially what's happening is backtracking from that, and then you have the choreographed handshakes and the signed, agreements and the photo ops and all the media that go with that. My question, I guess, primarily is to Mark, is as the person who is travelling around Australia and having these conversations with Indigenous Australians, is Pearson to you overly cynical? And do you believe that the conversations you're having with your people, do you believe that when consensus or something close to consensus is reached and you deliver that to the political leaders in Canberra, do you believe that they will take your recommendations and they will listen to you and they will include that as a proposal?
Okay. So I think this is the start of a conversation about where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people fit in the 21st century. We are the oldest living culture in the world, and I think we've got to actually have non-Indigenous people recognise that, and that's where I reckon they do it in a referendum when everyone gets to vote. That's why I keep on going back to say this is the power of a referendum. Now, it doesn't preclude sovereignty, and argument about sovereignty, recognition. It doesn't preclude the reaching of agreements, whether you call them treaties or compacts or whatever. As a matter of fact, there's 2 states already thinking about a different relationship with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And how do you frame that? We're going to suggest it as part of the stolen wages reparations in Queensland. What about a compact with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Queenslanders? But you can't do that unless you actually have a conversation about where people fit. And we fit here because we're the First Peoples. Now, I was saying before, the thing about dehumanising us is the way people deal with it. You don't have to take notice of their mob, they're trying to do it generally. So you don't have to consider, well, once it's in the Constitution, I've got to. I've got to start considering us and where we sit here. I go back to that young lady, I cannot promise that she'll be safe, but I guarantee it'll be a different place after we have this vote, because we will have been recognised by the majority of Australians and as the first people of this country. And I just think where that could take us as we go into the next discussion about how do we actually make that work.
We're going to get a quick response from Ken. Then I'm going to take 3 questions from the floor. And you want the questions? We'll take 3 quick questions from the floor and I'll put it to the panel because we're running out of time. You start, sir, and then...
It's as much a question for me to clarify a couple of points. Firstly, most white Australians have very little understanding of our history of the Constitution or its powers or how it's evolved. In 1900, we were a self-governing colony of the UK. We were not a nation, and we've been led to believe that. And there's a few things you mentioned that a no campaign will be advocated on behalf within the Parliament, but this will only happen when the MPs actually say they don't agree with recognition, stand up. Their reason isn't what Jenny and grassroots people are advocating for a no reason. They're saying we're all Australians, so any question of voting yes or no would only be divisive of what we already have. So, in fact, you're quite unique to have a look at that constitutional power. Okay, so the question is, regardless of whether we have recognition or not, the power to interpret our constitution is still with the High Court of Australia, and the Australian people, whether black or white, are still excluded. Do you think this proposal, yes or no, is actually going to change that for the benefit of all Australians?
I'll go to the lady just to in front. There.
Hi, I have a question for you, Mick. I don't know if Mick can Jenny as well. The Racial Discrimination Act, how is that affected by Section 5126? And what do you mean when you say you want substantial change with the new proposal in the Expert Panel?
And then the last question, the lady at the left here has been extremely patient. We've got a lady at the left.
She didn't get answered, Jeff.
Yeah, they'll all be in twice.
I'd just like to say that I would vote no, but I'm one of the few white people voting against the recognition because I don't believe white Australians should be voting for anything to do with the future of Aboriginal people.
What to begin with and not the end with.
Exactly.
Black follow
I think that you guys, I study law, Jenny's study law, I think you guys are telling people a lot of things that aren't quite true and promising that a treaty could come later. That in fact would be very unlikely to happen. You should be working on that. What will it take for guys like you who are now being paid to go around and talk to people and having to start thinking about the future of in 100 years, whether you think that it's good now, what's in 100 years? Do you want to see your entire race of people being tied to this constitution and not having their own? Not having the treaty now, the opportunity is staring you in the face. What will it take you guys to sit over here with these guys?
Okay. We've got 3 questions, and it's a bit of choose your own adventure. We've got the High Court, we've got the Racial Discrimination Act, and then where do we want to be in 100 years?
Okay, so can I explain how we explain the Constitution to people who are Jews who don't even speak English? He said, this is the big law that people in Canberra used to make little laws. And they said, well, that's what we got here, we got our culture.
It's under the Privy Council.
No, hang on. Hang on.
But you're not telling the truth, Michael. You don't understand law otherwise. It's under the British Parliament. There was an act in 1983 called the Australia Act to make a trading entity. You don't understand
I think you and I may have to sit down and debate this, and I don't agree with you. I just don't agree with you. I just don't agree with you. Simple as that. I just don't agree with what you're asserting. I just don't agree.
You don't understand law.
No, you don't know me at all.
Every lawyer in the room, a law student, is laughing at you. You don't understand it. You have no
I've had so many people laugh at me before.
law in 1994 UTS.
Did you finish?
When we got native title. Yes, brother. And
Yeah,
where have you been? You don't understand the movement. We moved from land rights, the national right to land rights, talking treaty, sovereignty. Paul Keating spoke in that very park the same time. You must have been on another planet, brother. To where our people were and where the movement's been going. We got counted in 67. We don't need to be recognised in 215. We need to be counted. Let's equal New Zealand. Let's equal Canada. Let's go beyond. Go beyond. Now are you answering? You're keeping the status quo. You're keeping the status quo.
No, you've got to let Mick answer. You put your point, let him answer. Put your point.
So, the High Court will interpret the Constitution. That's what it does. It's the big law. The government's always takes the High Court around making illegal. Look at the Malaysian solution. It got thrown out. So this is what the High Court does. Now, as for... Yeah, but that's what you need to understand, the separation of powers. Yes, there are. It is not like the High Court is appointed by the government. What do you think they're scared of, the government? Scared of the High Court?
The Hague. The International Court of Justice.
Anyway, I'll answer the other question about the RDA. The question about the RDA is this. It's on an international treaty called the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. And then we have the
the RDA. But without section 5126, we wouldn't have had the ability to suspend the racial discrimination against it. Wouldn't have been able to suspend the Racial Discrimination Act for those 73 communities in the Northern Territory. So the Racial Discrimination Act is made by Parliament. They can actually undo it. That's the difference between a constitutional recognition and an act of Parliament. They do it all the time. They make the laws, they can break the laws, and we've seen that with the RDA. And that's why people talk about a constitutional guarantee against racial discrimination, because they wouldn't be able to do that.
Whichever way you look at it, we can have a legal debate about this, and there is a legal debate, and I see the validity of a legal debate. I see that validity, but I don't know whether this is a forum for it, but the one point I will make, whether we're under English law or Australian law or whatever, this constitution does not belong to our people. The voting in this constitution does not belong to our people. When it comes to the vote, our people will have a minimal say. If you really want a vote of constitutional recognition, let Aboriginal people only vote. We've had our own surveys on this, and I will tell the recognition people that straight out. We have gone through our own surveys, and in excess of 80% of Aboriginal people say no. Yet when Abbott put on his little poll, 70% of Australians said yes. Now here lies the problem. We're voting on a thing that has nothing to do with us culturally, traditionally, and we are the oldest living people on this planet. Why on earth are we paying attention to this constitution? Whoever governs it, why should we pay any attention to it? We have to have a separation of powers in this country before we have justice.
So we're getting towards the end of our time in terms of talking behind microphones. It seems to me that this really is a matter of trust and of hope.
I don't trust you, I use it as a warning constitution.
Everyone in this parliament, they all play under whatever law they operate, as far as the outlands anyway. But they all call themselves honourable. More honourable people call themselves honourable. What honour have they ever done with our people in our past history? How can you legally consider working with these people when there's been no honour in what they've done to our people from the start goes except putting our country? There is no honour there. How can you ever expect them to be honour? Have a look at the past history.
Well, look, you've got a good point. I sit in the chamber where everybody calls themselves honourable, except for the Greens MPs. None of us have taken the title because we think it's crap and comes with a very bad cultural.
So this is about trust and about hope. And that's right. It's about whether we...
Let him finish. I think Aboriginal culture is based on respect, so let's just respect the man enough to let him finish his answer, please.
Trust and hope about whether you trust them, whoever they are, whether you trust their system, whether you trust this process, whether you trust Mick, whether you trust Mark Yettica-Paulson, whether you trust Jenny, Ken. It's about whether you trust. So this is about trust, but it's also about hope. What hope have we got for our people? What hope have we got for this land? What hope we have for our future 100 years from now, when none of us will be here? And I'm happy and fine for you to think that I'm misguided in what I'm doing. But this is my hope, is that it will make a difference for the future. And so that's why I'm engaged in it. Levels of trust, yeah, I also have those things of like, I don't know if I trust this, I don't know if I trust that, but I've got enough trust to want to keep doing this work. I've got enough trust in the leadership of community as well. It is fine and it's right to have scrutiny and have fierce debate about this project. This is what we need to do, to have fierce debate about it. I ask that you have this fierce debate with open ears, so that you might hear something different from when you came in. Because that's the way that we'll make progress together. So, sister, it breaks my heart that we can't guarantee better safety. I have a 14-year-old daughter. Yeah, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I don't know what better safety to give for her in the future. And I know that what gets changed in the Constitution won't provide a better safety for her. It's what I have to do as a father. Right? Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do with my family in Queensland. That's what we're trying to do. But the reason I do this is because of my levels of trust, not only in the systems around me, but in my people, my families, and the people of Australia, and the sense of hope that I've got that this will make a change for the better for all of us. Thank you.
A bit older and a bit better and a bit more secure for the people that live it and breathe it and exist it. I, in my law, am a woman of high degree. I went down, I spent 15 months in a tent at the embassy at the block. I went to the Supreme Court, and they told me the corporate veil will not be lifted, no matter what you do. The housing company is a law unto itself. And I was castigated by the Supreme Court for the action that I took at the block. Last week I went to the Parliament, and I was congratulated by those parliamentarians for those very same acts. Now, there's a bit of psychosis going on here, far be it from me to point that out. But there is some major psychosis going on here with the lawmakers and the system of government in this country. When the left hand don't know what the right hand's doing, they can't catch the right hand on the way out.
Look, Deb Dunn has 100 more questions, and I think Mick and Mark and Ken and Jen are going to stay around. There's some decent food on. Could I ask you all to thank Mark and Ken and Mick and Jenny for coming and having the debate. I want to also thank the two local groups, two Greens local groups, Waverley and Woollahra local groups, who paid for the hall, the welcome and put on the food here. Thanks very much to setting us the stage and making it happen. We're committed to do more of these, talk about this issue more and hear more from the multiple voices that is Aboriginal Australia about constitutional recognition. If you think it's been helpful, please let us know. I'd like to thank my daughter for being very good too. Thank you, Hannah. Have some food, talk amongst yourselves. There's a bit of time for workshops.
That's the whole spirit of our boundary. You heard me uncle talking tonight. You don't know our culture, brother.